late evening here. You can see I have got FOXIDIZED jacked up on a serious gangster lane, and that's because I'm tired of this thing leaking all over the place. Like every time it sits for a day or two, there is a puddle, and it's mainly due to the transmission lines. Now, I had done the fix up here. I just threaded in some barbed fittings into the radiator, cut the factory line, flared it, put a piece of rubber hose on it with some normal hose clamps. Everything in the front is good. The problem now is actually where they go into the transmission. So I want to get those cleaned up so that this thing can just leak a little bit of oil from the rear main seal like every other Fox body does. And while it is up in the air, I'm actually going to get this side up as well. And I'm going to swap in these Godspeed rear shocks that I have here. Those came out of that absolutely wrecked gunmetal notch that I picked up, which was, I think the title was Control is an Illusion, because that thing was almost damn near cut in half. And then I've got a set of, well, there's actually rear and front KYBs. I'm just going to use the fronts. Now, the reality is KYBs hate being low, but they're going to be better than the old clapped out whatever. Stock stuff is still in the front, so we're going to swap those. I'm not going to use the rears. We're going to go with those Godspeed ones because they're laying around and they're actually, I can adjust them so they're shorter, and we'll get into that a little later into the video. But that's what the name of the game is here. I'm not going to do too much tonight, but the video will carry on. I just kind of wanted to get the intro done and out of the way, and I'm going to show you guys what these transmission lines look like underneath the car here. So stay tuned. So let's have a look underneath the car here. See this piece of padding that normally goes like in the wheel well here had fallen. It separated itself and was falling out of the bottom side of the inner fender there. So I just pulled it out. So let's take a peek at these transmission lines. So look at how nasty that is. These fittings from Ford have always been garbage. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to loosen these off, and you can see the puddles, right, of leakage that has been happening as a result. So I'm going to get a wrench, get those off, and see if I have the right fittings. So I'm going to do the same thing that I did in the front. I'm going to thread in brass barbed fittings and just use a section of rubber hose to get to these lines. So I'll cut these lines, hook up the hose, and we'll be done with it. My contraptions: barb fitting, high pressure hose like fuel line hose, got some pipe tape on there, and we will thread one in at a time. I was getting, what's the word? I was over it. working on those transmission lines last night. Just working underneath the car later in the day, rolling around, doing those things, and you just want it to be done. So let's take a look. I did start the car up when I finished everything and I didn't see any leaks, but the main thing from what I showed you guys is that I actually had a 3/8 inch barb fitting, and that was too big to work with the lines. I needed a 5/16, so I came up with something. And this is where you just use what you have, because it's a ship box and you don't care. As long as it's solving the problem, go with it. So looking down on the ground here, got all our dirt and remnants. You can see actually transmission fluid that was leaked all over the floor over there, the shiny spot, and that was from just the car being parked before. So here is our fix. Compression fittings on the hard line with barbed ends, clamps, high pressure 5/16 fuel hose on the barb fittings that are threaded into the transmission, and everything should be good. Now the only thing is, you can see the transmission lines are hanging down a little low right there, so I'm gonna get that fixed. But before I fix that, gonna make my life a little easier. Actually gonna pull the wheels off on this side, so that way I might as well swap out the shock, rear shock, and the front strut. And one thing that I forgot to mention is that the brakes in this car have always sucked. I swapped the booster back in like almost when I first got the car. I forget what I was doing. I had a booster laying around, so I swapped the booster, left the master, and that master that was on the car must have just had blown out seals in it or whatever it might be, and just the pedal was absolute garbage. So got another master that I don't even know what it came off of, swapped over and on there. So I need to bleed the brakes, and hopefully, fingers crossed, I'm gonna have more reliable brakes on this thing. But with that said, gonna go now, like I said, knock the wheels off and get some suspension stuff swapped over and go from there. So one step closer. Stupid, odds and ends here. I haven't worked on this car in a while. And one other thing that I noticed is that I always wondered why this wasn't lining up very well. Well, part of that is actually because this fender is actually dented right here. So I'm going to try and actually get up in there from behind the fender and see if I can't push that out some. Oh, at least we have a little bit of rubber in there. Here are the Godspeeds. that were in that wrecked car. And what I'm going to do is notice how I can crank the housing up. So that's as far as it's gonna go, which is fine. Put this ring down, we'll lock it into place after the fact. But the main point is here, see how this one's significantly shorter? That's what we want. We want it as short as possible, especially when the car's jacked up. See how the spring falls out? If you guys actually have proper shocks, they'll keep your diff from sagging down so far. So when you go through one of those whoop-de bumps, I've talked about this before, but that will keep your car from doing that and help keep your, see how it's supposed to go here like this, I guess. Keep your spring, or at least help keep your spring in place. So what I actually like to do, since this rubber is actually in good shape, I'm actually going to use this, if it fits. Yeah. There we go. Pushing up in the hole perfectly. So I'll keep that stuff for the inside. There we go. Beautiful. So now I actually need to jack the car up. Or jack the diff up. To accommodate. All right, guys, some finagling. So check this out. Weight is now off the diff, and where this spring used to fall out before, it does not fall out now. So shorter shocks, less travel, and things are good. So we got one side of the car done. Jack the other side up. I'm gonna knock that out real quick, and then after that, bleed the brakes. And this thing should be good for the road. All right, guys, so the brakes are bled, and hopefully everything is gonna work out okay with that used master cylinder. Again, this car is built on like donation parts from other builds that have been lying around. So I'm gonna do something a little bit different here. I'm gonna do a quick little spray of the calipers, just give it something to pop. It's gonna be the same blue I used for the pinstripe that I painted into some of the moldings here that kind of match the original blue. Who paints their car a blue color like this? Like, really? What a blue, like man blue. That right there's like Tiffany blue. I figure, you know what, a powder blue caliper, why the hell not? So I'm gonna show you guys a little trick using an old t-shirt in terms of if you want to do a little bit of DIY and you don't care for perfection and just kind of want quick and easy results. Well, here you go. So pretty simple. Get the old hole where you'd pass your neck through and stretch it out around your caliper. It's actually an old Radwood Austin shirt. There you go. Hey guys, you can scuff down your calipers. You can go however far you want to go in terms of your style of work and OCD, so to speak. And that's right, Rust-Oleum. Ultra coverage, and you'd actually be surprised how well a normal paint versus a caliper paint is going to work. So what I'm telling you is, you don't need to waste your money on VHT. You really don't. Now, don't get me wrong, this isn't powder coat, this isn't Cerakote. This is your local hardware store, Home Depot coat. But you'd be surprised. You can get a good result. You clean and prep the caliper up, and this would actually last a pretty long time. So here we go. Do a couple coats of that. We'll be done. All right, we're back down on the ground. Time to fire this old girl up. Do we have any leaks? And more importantly, see if we have any breaks. Then we'll let things warm up and we'll check our transmission fluid, because I know some has been lost through the leaks. Old Faithful starts every time. Let's grab, where's my flashlight? Look how smooth this thing runs. To leave the can of WD-40 and transmission fluid on the intake, doesn't even vibrate. So, oh, I gotta cut those 2 zip ties down there. Forgot about that. Not seeing any leaks. Oh yeah, we actually have brakes now. Alright, so we're gonna let this warm up. You always check your transmission fluid when the engine's been running and it's warm. And we'll get it topped up and take it for a little test drive, and hopefully between the brakes and the transmission, everything will be good to go. Fluid levels look good. You can see I put some, then I would engage it in park and then neutral, or drive, and then reverse, kind of go through the gears, load up the torque converter, and seems to be at a good level, but let's go take it for a test drive. Still kind of does that skipping over second gear thing, which, whatever. If that's the gonna be the worst of the situation, then I'm really not that concerned. But we definitely have better brakes than before. I'm gonna take this down a really bumpy road here. We'll see how it does. It's really not that bad. I'm just glad that I have somewhat better brakes. So here's our road. This is a backcountry road. I couldn't tell you. We're probably doing about 50. And amazingly enough, you know, the car's riding pretty good. Bouncing completely all over the place.
Making babies like me, and you're giving dope to my people, Chuck. Just wait till we get over that.
See, so it kind of skips over second a little bit, but honestly, it's not the end of the world. the kick down and everything else seems to be in where it needs to be, so. Alright, accelerate alright. Shift's alright. Drive's alright. We're good.